start of the session. Okay, so this is already a recorded session. Anything that you share, anything that you say, and then anything that you will type will be recorded. So please refrain and be mindful of your actions. Okay. So to start with, I'd like you to go to your what do you call this one? In-call messages. You'll have there that I think that's on your, if you're using your cell phone, that's the bottom part. If you're using a laptop, that's on your right side. Kanina itong sa in-call messages, please to your in-call messages. I'll be posting a Google form link, and this is for the attendance. Okay, please go to your in-call messages and then fill out the attendance for today. I'll be closing the attendance by 5 p.m. or after the class, so that I can record those who are really what do you call this one, who joined us, and then those who are not around. Please be reminded that attendance is part of your grade for both midterm and final term. Okay, so I'm really expecting na everyone under my class will join. Okay, so after this one, I'll be turning off my camera because agpikit siya guys. Kaya dagan kistananta. Okay, so let's now start with our discussion. By the way, I'll be using a online resource so that you can also access it whenever you would want, para di na mangayo na lang dayon. Okay? So I'll be sharing my entire screen, and then please bear with me. So to confirm that you can hear me loud and clear, could you please type the word Saturday in your in-call messages? Please type the word Saturday. Okay, ayan. So you can really hear me. Ayun. Someone is raising his hand. I'd like to ask kung ano mag-raise sa hand. Okay. So for this day, what I will be sharing with you guys is the resource nga akong gamiton for the entire semester. So you have it here. You can go to W3 Schools. I hope you can see the address bar, but I think this part here, w3schools.com/SQL. So SQL will be the topics that I will be discussing on your end, because this is something that is part of the fundamentals of database that is quite the basic, and I know nga masimple sa sabton. Though it's kind of technical, but it will be more easy to deliver, to demonstrate, and to teach, because most of it is what do you call this one? Most of it is doable even on your own end na dayon. Okay? So remember, this is a non-laboratory session, so it would mean na you will be doing the activities on your own and then in the comfort of your homes. So that's why I preferred na lang an online resource, para at least dili mo maglisod if nako ipa-demo. Okay? So SQL is actually, ayan, this is actually a tutorial na gali na you can even do it on self-paced, but then I'll be guiding you. Okay? So SQL is the standard language for storing, manipulating, retrieving data, and then data in databases. So just like what I mentioned in our orientation last, last Saturday, we will be dealing with information systems, but not particularly in creating them, but most specifically in understanding how they do their data, data utilization in terms of manipulation. So the process of storing, manipulating, and retrieving data are part of the database operations that we will be tackling all throughout the semester. Okay, so if you will access this website in your laptop, you can see that there is a dashboard on the left side. These are the topics that we will be discussing up until to SQL operators. But I'll be honest, the last time that I handled the subject, hindi namin natapos ito. It's because taas kayo siya. But then, we'll try our best, okay? So, since it's a Saturday mansad and then most of you are free, so I think we can discuss freely or fully the topics mentioned in this online resource. So again, you can go to W3 Schools and then choose SQL tutorial for this topic. Okay. Now let's start first with its definition. SQL stands for structured query language. So it means na you will be dealing with the language or the way that we communicate like humans. How do we communicate with computer databases? It's what you call SQL. So if in our what do you call this one, in our representation, we do communicate through words and phrases and then sentences. In computers, we communicate with databases using this language, structured query language. When you say structured, it means it follows syntaxes, formats, technicalities in order for the computer to understand what you are trying to request. Queries are requests coming from the end of the what do you call this one, end user, yung mga humans, and then it's being processed by the database, and that's the time the request will then be provided with a report. Ibig sabihin, yung request na binibigay or the request being asked by the user will be answered by the database in a form of report. Okay? So the whole process is what you call query. Okay, again, pag structured, it means na it follows a format, a syntax, and then a specific technicalities for it to perform. Okay? You have it here. If you will be using this one, please take note that each chapter you can use SQL editor. Okay? So later on I will discuss more of it. And then there will also be SQL exercises that will help you understand what is being discussed. So let's now start with the intro. So ayan, SQL is a standard language for accessing and manipulating database. It stands for structured query language. I'll just make it bigger. And then it lets you access, manipulate databases. This one becomes a standard of the American National Standards Institute, ANSI, in 1986, and of the International Organization for Standardization, which is very common. Kani siya nga tong medyo, we used to hear this one, ISO, in 1987. So since this is already the standards, it means that if you go to any other industry or any other country, they are, when we talk about databases, SQL is already the standard. There may be changes, but it will always be the standard. So if you know the standard or the basic of SQL, learning new formats of SQL will be easy. Okay? So what can SQL do? You have it here, a list of things that SQL can do. It can execute query against a database, yung sinabi ko kanina. It can retrieve data from a database. It can insert records in a database. It can update, delete records from database. It can even create new databases, create new tables, stored procedures, views, and then it can also set privileges, using permissions to tables, procedures, and views. So these are the things that SQL can do. So if you notice, it's quite limited because we are just talking about databases. So database manipulation, we will be focusing on these this 4 days, sorry. You have insert, update, delete, and then retrieval. Okay? So you don't need to worry. Ayan. SQL is a standard. This is what I'm telling you. But you have it here. Although SQL is an ANSI ISO standard, there are different versions of SQL language. However, to be compliant with the ANSI standard, they all support the major commands such as select, update, insert, delete, and then where in a similar manner. So after the creation of SQL, there were already different versions that were being developed and created. But to keep with the standard, just like what I told you, to keep it guided with the standards, most of those who develop a new version or a better version of SQL always follow the technicalities of the major commands: select, update, delete, insert, and where. Okay, so these major commands will be discussed later on the next topics. But for now, ito lang muna yung these are just the things that you need to learn. Okay? Okay, that's the intro for SQL. Okay, now, if you have a question regarding that one, could you please raise your hand? If not, could you please type SQL in your in-call messages? Okay, SQL, SQL. How about the others? So if you have a question, you can raise your hand. That's fine with me. You can even ask a question, diba? Yan, SQL, SQL, SQL. One question that I have from my previous year was that, sir, is it really necessary to have it written in all capital letters? Actually, to be honest, it should be because it's an abbreviation, man. Okay, so it should be written in a what do you call this one? Uh, in a uppercase format. Okay. Now let's go to the next one. I think everyone already understood the intro to SQL. Okay, now let's proceed to the next topic, which is database tables. Wait muna. Okay, you have it here. A database most often contains one or more tables. Each table is identified uh, by by a name, for example, customers or orders, and then tables can contain records, which is represented by a row with data. So this one, you have it here. This one is an example of a table inside a database. Okay, so this one is what we call customers table. Based on its description, you have it here. Below is selection from the customers table. So itong table na to, it's called as customer table. So if you notice, you have it here, we have 5 records and 7 columns, right? So the 5 records are what you call the data or the tuple, T-U-P-L-E. These are the records inside the table, and the columns that you can see on the upper part of the table, or the first rows, you have it here: customer ID, customer name, contact name, address, city, and then postal code. These are the names of the attributes. So if you notice, each column or each attribute corresponds to what is being described on each record. So for example, for customer ID, if you notice, most of the data under customer ID is represented with a number. Okay, that's dependent on how you define a table. But for this example, all customer ID are in number format. Okay, now you also have here the customer name. These are the names of the customer inserted in this table. So if you notice, this is represented, or better represented, by uh, letters and special characters. Okay, you also have the contact name, the address, the city, and then the postal code. So if you will try to, diba, just like what I told you, we will not be focusing on the creation and development of database. What we will be dealing with is kung paano siya ginagamit in a business. So how do computer systems that is being used in business use database in their day-to-day operation? So to do that one, we need to understand first the deep level approach in database management system, and then that's how you do it in SQL. So if you notice, these records were not just copy paste. So these are actually inserted through a particular SQL operation. Okay, I hope that is clear on your end. You also have it here, SQL statements. And most of the actions you need to perform on a database are done with SQL statements. The following SQL statement selects all the records in the customers table. Okay, this is now the part where I will be what do you call this one, sharing with you guys the compiler format, the online compiler of W3 schools. So this one is what I will be using. Okay ha, para bitaw klaro sa ato, para we will understand better. So I'll share my entire screen again so that you will know kung ano yung ginagawa ko. Okay, you have it right here. So if you notice, wait lang ha. If you notice, you have it here, di ba? Yung siya nga, the following SQL statements selects all the records in the customers table. So this one, itong sinasabi niyang select all, this one is not multiply ha. In database, asterisk means all. It's general. Okay, again in database, the symbol or the character asterisk is represents the word or the context na all, lahat. Okay, from customers. So if you try to understand this one, it means na the database operation will select all the records coming from the customers table. Gusto niyang ipakita ang lahat ng records na available kang customers. Okay? So if I will click try it yourself, you'll be redirected to another tab. Okay, this is now what you call SQL editor. Okay? So dito natin ita-type, again this is where we will type the statements that we will be doing with the table. Tapos after that, you will run this one. You have it here now. This is the simple explanation. You click run SQL to execute the SQL statement above. W3 Schools has already created an SQL database in your browser. The menu to the right displays the database and will reflect any changes. Feel free to experiment with any SQL statement, and then you can just restore the database at any time. Okay, so you have it here, restore databases. But for now, I think we have already, what they call this one, a database that is already configured to our browser. One question that I always get, sir, can I use this one without the internet? No, because the database, although it's presented in a browser, it's being stored in an online server. So it means that if you are using this one, or if I will let you do an activity about this one, you cannot do it unless you are connected to the internet. Okay? It's because hindi sila makaka-retrieve ng anong data coming from the online server or the online database kung wala po tayong internet. So again, W3 Schools online SQL editor is not accessible without the internet. Kinakailangan po natin ng internet. Okay? Now, if I will click this one, pansinin nyo, the result area, wala siyang lumalabas. It's just a description. If you will click Run SQL, you notice, di ba? Ayan. There are number of records, 91. And you notice na marami siyang ipinapakitang records. Okay? So, by just typing this one and then clicking the Run SQL, you will be provided with a lot of records. Sir, asa manigikan ng mga records? Again, this is an online database. Ibig sabihin, it's already stored in the cloud or in the internet. We are just using it for educational purposes. So you have it here. This database actually has how many tables? You have one. Kindly look at the right side. You have it here. You have the table name and then the number of records per table. So for customers, you have 91 records. Yung 91 kapok yung rows niya. When I will be talking about records, it means na it talks about the rows. You have customers, categories, employees, order details, orders, products, shippers, and then suppliers. So ayan, these are the tables that we can use in our discussion all throughout the semester. Again, the SQL editor of W3 School is accessible if you have an internet connection. Kung walang internet connection, you cannot run this one. Okay? Now let's go to the next one. You have it here. Yeah. Keep in mind, we are already in the syntax. Keep in mind the following. SQL keywords are not case sensitive. You can have it written in this manner, itong naka-lower case, or this one. It will still run. Okay, again SQL keywords are not case sensitive. Pwedeng ang gamitin mo is naka-lower case, or ang gagamitin mo is yung naka-upper case. Okay, you have it here. Don't we require a semicolon after SQL statements? You have it here. Some database systems require a semicolon at the end of each SQL statement. A semicolon is the standard way to separate each SQL statement in database systems that allow more than one SQL statement to be executed in the same call to the server. So for example, if you are executing multiple statements already, you can use semicolon. But in our end, or yung gagawin natin this semester, will do only simple SQL statements. Kasi mahihirapan po tayo if we go to the advanced. The advanced, yung marami na mga SQL statements are for IT. Okay, let's leave it to them. We'll just give the basic na lang. Okay, these are the most important SQL commands that you need to remember all throughout the semester. Okay, have it here. Select is the SQL command when you would want to extract data from the database. So kung gusto mong ipalabas ang lahat ng records or a specific record, you will be using select. Okay? Pag-update naman is that if you would want to modify a particular data or a set of records in the database, you will use the update SQL command. Kung gusto mo namang mag-delete or mag-remove ng data from a database, you will use the delete SQL command. Ito. Insert into, if you would want to add a new record in your database, pwede yan, you can use insert into. Kung gusto mo namang mag-create ng bagong database, like you need another example database, you can just use create database. You also have alter database. Ibig sabihin, you will modify the descriptions and the specifications of a particular existing database. Again, the alter database command is only applicable to existing database. Okay? Now, if we would want to create a new table inside our database, we'll just type create table and then its specifications. Kung gusto naman nating i-change yung specifications, yung descriptions ng tables that are already present in the database, we can just use alter table. Okay? You also have, if you would want to delete a table, pwede mong gamitin is delete, drop table na syntax. You also have create indexes and then drop indexes. Ito is for a bigger number na of databases or records in a database. So all in all, itong lahat, these are the basic commands which is very important that you need to remember. Especially this 4, itong 4. Since we will be just doing mansad manipulation on existing databases, itong 4 talaga yung dapat nating i-master. Again, pag select, gusto mong may i-display. Pag update, you would want something to change. Pag delete, you would want something to be removed. And pag insert, you would want a new record to be added in the table. Okay? So ayan. Let's now try to ask some questions, or if you have any other questions, would it be okay if you, Linaw Sheila Faith. Sheila, what's your question?
Sir, is SQL is accessible in mobile phone?
Yes, we tried it, and then it's okay to use mobile phones in SQL. The compiler in Double-Tree schools, they have already configured it na it's mobile friendly. Okay? Ang amo lang, the thing that I have tried lang yun is that if you don't have a good connection, it will be slow in retrieving data. So much better if you do manipulations of the records, make sure that you have a good internet. But to be honest, I'll be honest, it's really much practical, and you will really much understand it if you do it in a laptop. But if you don't have any laptop, that's fine with me. You can just use your mobile. But again, I'll warn you, it's much complicated. Kay the buttons and then all of the way you type the statements, kay lisod siya. Laptop is really an accessible thing. Okay. Any other questions? That's a good question, Sheila. How about the others? My question ba? Okay. If you don't have any question, please type, what do you call this one? Please type select in your in-call messages. Ayun. So please be reminded, just like what I told you, this discussion every Saturday is a checkpoint type. Ibig sabihin, it will be seldom of me to ask you to participate. Like for example, ask you questions, especially in the succeeding bitaw nga days, is that I will be what do you call this one? I'll be providing you with demonstrations. Okay? So I think the basics of this one is already clear on your end, guys. So let's now go to the next one. We'll have last two na lang mandayon. Okay? So again, my discussion is not good for 1 hour, Mansad. So don't worry. Okay, let's now go to the next one. Select. Ayan. Welcome to the first operation that we will be using. You have SQL select. Ayan. The SQL select is a statement used to select data. Ayan, please note this one. Wait lang, I'll share sa my screen din, nakalimot ko. Okay. 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 Let's now go to the next one. You have SQL select statement. The select statement is used to select data from a database. This one returns the data returned is stored in a result table called the result set. So yung pinapakita natin, di ba? The one that's being displayed earlier is what you called the result set, or the report query in other versions. So you have it here, the syntax. When you say syntax, I think it's already clear man sa inyo. Syntax is the format, or what they call this, the format you follow whenever you perform a particular statement. So it means na if you will not follow that format, the operation or the thing that you would want to perform will not be executed. So a wrong syntax means a wrong execution of SQL statements. So you have it here, select, and then you can have, after the word select, you will then choose which column will you be showing. So either column 1 or column 2, or the two of them, or all, yung represented by the asterisk. And then you type from, and then space, and then table name. Again, the syntax for a SQL select statement is select. You have to choose the columns that you would want to showcase, and then you indicate kung saang table siya nanggaling. Okay? You have it here, an explanation. Here, column 1 and column 2 are the field names of the table you want to select data from. If you want to select all the fields available in the table, use the following syntax. Ito yung sinasabi ko. Kung gusto mo lang ipakita ang certain columns, you can just use this one, this syntax. But if you would want to showcase everything, you will use the select all na syntax. Itong what they call this one, asterisk. This syntax with an asterisk is what you will be using. So again, you have it here. This is a Northwind database, and then we will be using customers for this example. Again, if you will try to explain this one, this is part of the customers table. The customers table has already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 columns. So, for example, if I would want to show lang yung customer name, I will just specify it. Diba? So, for example, this one. Diba? The following SQL statements selects or displays the customer name and city columns only. So, if I will click try it yourself, diba? Wait muna, diba? A while ago, if you notice, yung ginamit ko is you have select all from customers. Ginagamit ko yung asterisk, di ba? If I will run this one, if you notice, you have the number of columns na pinapakita niya is yung lahat. You have customer ID, customer name, contact name, address, city, postal code, country. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 columns. But if I will just specify na itong dalawa lang yung ipapakita ko, you have it here, customer name and then city, please be reminded na if certain columns lang ang ipapakita nyo, make sure to separate them with a comma. Pag walang comma, it will be an error na dayon. Remember, you need to follow a format so that it will be executed properly. So if I will run this one, di ba? If you notice, it's still 91 records, but yung pinapakita lang niya is yung customer name and then city. Sir, bakit ganyan lang yung pinapakita niya? It's because I indicated in my SQL statement na si customer name lang at si city yung ipapakita niya. Okay? Let's try another one. Like for example, sir, is it okay if I will just present only one column? Pwede. Ano? Diba? If you notice na wala si city. Okay? So is it only 2? Again, it will be dependent, diba? Yan. It will be dependent to the number of columns. So if you notice, you have 7 columns, right? You have 7 columns. So you can pick any of that from the given column names. So for example, I will choose, for example lang niya, you have customer ID, comma, customer name, comma, and then country. Okay, country. Okay. If you notice, kung ano yung tinype ko dito, if I will click this one, isa rin yung ipinapalabas dito. So what if kung marong ka og spelling? Look what will happen na. Country. Example lang. Okay. If you notice, may pinapalabas si WT Schools na error message. Have it here. Error 1 could not prepare statement because one no such column country. Ibig sabihin daw noon is they can find this one. Ito. Wala siyang makitang column na country. So wrong spelling in SQL is wrong. Okay? Again, pag gusto mong ipakita ang lahat ng columns, you use the asterisk or yung all. Kung gusto mo namang i-specify lang kung anong columns ang ipapakita mo, you can just type it here and then run SQL. Ayan. Or gusto mo ring, this is one good example, sir. Is it can I have it like not in order? Yes, pwede. For example, postal code and then customer name. Look what will happen. Ipakita gyapon niya gyapon. Okay? So order in this particular example will not matter. Okay? Sige. Let's now try to have question and answer. Basta bitaw malibog ta dani. Sige. Question. Raise your hand if you have a question and then raise your hand also if you have something to ask. Nalibog ka dani. For example, sir, naglibog ko. How did you execute it? Again, when you will want to execute it, make sure na you are following the correct syntax. You are following the correct format and you follow with a correct spelling. Again, if you notice, we are already going to the technicalities. So please, what they call this one? Please listen properly or attentively because in most of your examinations or the activities that I will be giving, anyone who will not follow the instruction will automatically have a low score or as no grade at all. Okay? Ayan. So if you don't have any question, please type in your in-call messages the asterisk symbol so that I can assess. Ayan. Sige daw. Would anyone would like to share their insights kung okay ra ba or pas-pas ra ba akong pag-discuss para we can deliberate actions on it. We can what do you call this one? We can adjust. Sige daw. Are there any questions? Lina, what's your question?
Sir, I have a question. How will you know, sir, if nakapasa na mi sa activity na imong gihatag sa mga, sir?
Just like, what mean the activity?
Diba, sir, magamit mo og SQL.
Yeah.
Then how will you know, sir, if magpass na mi? Then how will you know na napasa na namo ang activities?
I'll be providing you with, you need to provide screenshots.
Okay po. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any questions related to what I discussed earlier? So it means na sabtan ninyo, di ba? Sabtan nyo guys, wala. Linaw, was I clear when I discussed the concepts on the select statement? Could you please confirm?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks. I'll now proceed to the next one.
Sir, ayan.
Okay. Now you also have select distinct. Okay, again, lahat ng i-discuss ko will be based on SQL, WT Schools SQL. Para at least lahat tayo, we can just have or access it. Okay? Sir, why are you using WT Schools? Actually, WT Schools is one of the kumbaga most reliable resource you can get if you are into computing. So they even have HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python, PHP, Bootstrap, Java. Those are the things you need to do whenever you would want, or you're into systems, computer systems, you can have this one. They even provide you with certificates if you would want to enroll in their online courses. They are already cited by different companies and industries around the globe. That's why I preferred this one. Okay. Now let's go to SQL select distinct. This will be the last one that I'll be discussing for today. Okay? When you say distinct, gal, it means na it's unique, it's not common, it's something that stands out. But in SQL, when you say distinct, it answers the question in duplicate records. So in order to avoid any duplicate records, you can use distinct or select distinct whenever you would want to present uh, your your records. So in formality, we have it here. The select distinct statement contains or is used to return only distinct or different values in a given record. Inside a table, a column often contains many duplicate values. And sometimes you want to list the different distinct values. So a while ago, if you notice, diba, if you notice a while ago, there are those with the same cities, diba? Like for example, in reality, in a city, in a city you have a lot of customers or a lot of people living in one city, diba? You can only have one customer name. There are also who have the same postal code but different customer name. So to address that one, so those with duplicate values, they are being addressed by select distinct. You have it here. Now, the following SEO statement selects all duplicating and includes the duplicates values to country. Reponte, do you have any question? Wala na
Ay,
siguro ma'am.
research na quad.
Okay. So ayan, you have it here. Select country from customers. Diba if you notice, a while ago, ato sa silang ipakita sa ha. Okay. If I will try to present all of the customers, example customer name and country. You have it here. If you notice, diba, for example, this person and then this person are in one country. Diba? And then you have it here. This person and then this one is on the same country. So for us to determine the countries in this, for example, your boss will say na, could you please provide me with, coming from the customer table, provide me with a list of countries that is being identified. Okay, and I'll mute you sa akin. Please be mindful, don't turn on your microphone kaya feedback sa ako. Okay? So if you notice, you have it here. For example, select country. Diba? Kung gusto lang natin ipakita yung mga countries, diba? Pwede siya. You'll be provided also with 91 records. Again, please take note of this 91 records. Now, if I will now add this thing in this statement, please make sure na it's incorrect na format or correct na spelling. So if I will run this one, from 91 records, you'll then provided with 21. So it means, nakatubit ang nagbalik-balik or yung duplicate records in terms of country will be removed and then will be joined as one. So for example, a while ago, you have, I don't know kung pila kabuk ang Mexico, but then karon ang ipakita lang niya lang dayon or yung pinapakita lang niya is only one record of Mexico. Okay? You have it here. So out from 91, out from 91 there are already, let's try to have so if you will try to solve this one, from 91 records, ayan, almost 70 ang natangtang silbi, and then only 21 were being presented. Okay? So out from 91, you only have 21 distinct records in terms of countries. When you say distinct, again, there are no duplicate records. Pansin nyo, walang umuulit, walang nagduduplicate Kung sa Bisaya pa, walay gabalik-balik. Okay? That's how you do select distinct. Okay, that's the purpose of select distinct. Again, the importance of select distinct is for you to provide or for you to display records which is not in duplicate form or kanang di wala ito balik-balik bitaw. So you can use this one. Okay? Questions about select distinct. So a while ago, I only uh, provided you with the select statement. Right now, what I will be doing is select distinct icon. A while ago is the simple select, yung select all, tapos select specific columns. But right now, I will be doing, or what I did was, I presented select distinct, which answers the questions, what if there are duplicate values? Ayan. So select distinct answers that one. Questions? Okay. Parang wala naman sigurong question. Or pag may question, sige nga. Okay. So no question at all. Let's now proceed with the next one or the last one. Oops, sorry. Okay. Let's now proceed to the next one. Ito lang yung select na may count, kumbaga. Like try natin na, give it, the following SQL statement list all the number of this different distinct countries, distinct customer countries. So if you will try to run this one, ayan. So again, every time you click this button, try it yourself, you'll be redirected to a new tab and you can then execute this one. So if you will try to analyze it, it means that it's selecting all the distinct countries from the customer. It's just the same. Pero, yung pagkakaiba lang niya is that it will count. Okay? Like yung iyapon. I will try to run this one now. It's, yan. Yan. Diba? So, ibig sabihin, there are 21 unique distinct countries in this table. Iya lang gi-count naman. It's just like a while ago bitaw, nga iya lang gipakita. But karon, since we are talking about count man, so iya lang giiyap, like pila kabuk ang mga dili duplicate values nga countries. Ayan, 21 da kuno kabuk ang countries that is present in your customers na table. Okay? Not the entire database, but in the customers table only. Okay, so this is how you do select and then select distinct. On the next meeting, we will be talking about where and or, where and then and or not. Okay, so any questions? Okay. Okay. Any question? You can raise your hand if you have questions. If medyo nalibog sa distinct. Again, ang distinct, ang ilang purpose lang dito is that if may mga duplicate values, iyang isegregate or group into one. Okay? That's distinct. Any other questions? Okay. If walang question, okay, Lina, what's your question?
Sir, pwede ba magamit ang distinct sa, like for example, sa customer's name? Pwede ba siya magamit, sir? Possible ba siya na magamit sa, ano?
Pwede ra. It's not restricted to ano man. That's a good question also. Okay.
Dili lang siya sa country, sir?
Pwede ra. We can try it. We can try it. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Let's try to have yung sinabi ni Linaw. Okay. So, according to yes, sir, will it be okay if we will try to use it in customer name? Okay. Again, you only use, what do you call this one? You only use this thing if you already notice that there are recurring or duplicate values. So, let's try to see if meron bang duplicate values sa customer name. Okay. So far, walang there are no duplicate values because a while ago, if you notice on the left side, on the right side, there are 91 records. And then so far, if you will do the customer name distinct, 91 lang din yung lumalabas. Ibig sabihin, walang duplicate values na available in this particular column na customer name. But Linaw is right. It's okay to use it for checking only. It's okay to use other columns if you would want to check if there are duplicate records. That's a good implementation. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good question. How about the others? Okay. So let's try to I'll try to check muna the Google form if lahat na ba is naka naka-fill out. So please go, so far I have 116 but I only have 86 ang nag-answer, 82 ang nag-answer. Please go again to your in-call messages and please fill out the forms. For those who are not able to fill out the forms, please fill out the Google form link provided in your in-call messages. Okay? So far, I only have 82 responses. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. Pag wala ng question, okay. Wala siguro. So please be reminded na on next week, 4 o'clock to 4:30 will be the quiz for the basics of SQL, SQL Select, and then SQL Distinct. Okay, the quiz will be in Google Form. You will only answer. Sorry, it's not for one day. The quiz will be 4:20 to 4:30. It's only a 10-minute quiz. I'll be posting the details in our GC and then in the Google Classroom also. The link will be accessible in the Google Classroom. Okay? So, ang may tabo dani is that you need to be present as early as before pa 4:20 para you can answer. By 4:30 is ako din i-close ang form. Again, there will be a quiz next Sunday about the things I discussed today. Review on it and then the quiz will be via Google Forms. Okay? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Very
sir.
good. Very good. Now, before I end this one, could you please turn on your camera for the documentation?